Hi folks, I'm Nikki and I run Nikki Supply Store. It's been a while since I've created a video for YouTube, but I am setting up a new journal today and I wanted to show you a little bit of my process and some of the materials that I'm going to be using. So I use an Archer and Olive B5 journal. I've used this journal for a year now and I've actually not finished it. This is the amount of space that I have left in the journal and I've been using it for practicing. So as these journals are bound in linen, I find that they do get grubby quite quickly, so I always use one of these clear covers just to protect them and to make sure that they stay nice for the amount of time that I'm going to be using them. The clear covers are also great for adding stickers to, and I absolutely love a sticker, so there's no doubt that this journal is going to end up covered in stickers by the end of the year. Moving on to the actual spreads, I've set up the first few using pencil just so that I know where everything's going to be going and I've got enough space for everything that I want to lay out initially. I really love using a B5 journal because it just gives you that little bit of extra space to use when you're creating your journal spreads. So for my 2022 journal, I really want to focus on my hand lettering and typography skills. So I want to keep this super simple by just using my zebra mild liners and some Pigmamicron pens. I've got a mixture of the limited edition black and gold Pigmamicrons, but they're just the same as the regular ones. I'm using the box that the Archer and Olive B5 came in to organise my pens too. If I had more time I would line them up in rainbow order because I find that makes it easier to find the colours that I'm looking for faster, but hey. So I'm going to get started by adding my name to the This Book Belongs To section, and I'm going to use this orchid colour of zebra mild liner. I really love these brush pens. I find that they are super versatile. The fact that they've got a fine liner on the other side, it just makes them a great all-rounder to have in your pencil case. So for this brush lettering, I am not being super neat with it. I'm not really that bothered about it staying on the bottom line. I'm just making sure that I'm pushing down hard with the downstroke and light with the upstroke. And that is really the main thing that you need to remember when it comes to brush lettering like this. The other nice thing about these pens is that they're quite translucent, so you can layer them up and get this kind of ombre effect, which I'm going to continue throughout the next few spreads. Going straight in with a 2022 cover page, I'm using exactly the same style of brush lettering as I did for my name at the start of the journal. Again, pushing hard down on the downstroke and lighter in the upstroke, you get this variety of widths in your nib, which makes your lettering look really great even if it's not super neat. So I want to keep my type quite consistent throughout the first few pages of the setup, and I'm going to apply the same ombre effect that I did with my name on the very first page, just by layering up the mild liners, using the fact that they are quite translucent to build up the colour gradually in the top sections of the letters. You could do this in the bottom sections also, but I find that the top sections, I don't know, it just feels a little bit easier to do. So once I've done this with about half of the letters, I'll go back round and then about a third or a quarter from the top, layer up another layer just to make it darker again. Over the page, I'm going to add a year overview. So some small boxes where I'm going to be able to have the main things that are happening each month so that I can see them at a glance. I'm going to do a future log where I'll have a more detailed view of each month in the next few spreads, but this is a really great place to put the important things that are happening throughout the year. I'm going to go in and add the ombre effect to the top of my year overview header as well, and then I'll go ahead and add the boxes. While I'm doing that, I wanted to mention that I wasn't super happy with how this title turned out. I felt like the end part was a bit squashed. I didn't really leave myself enough room, but I think it's important to show that mistakes happen. Sometimes journals aren't perfect. Mine certainly isn't. And that is just not the point of a journal for me. It's something that I use to organise myself, to give me space to draw and plan, and inevitably, sometimes things go wrong. And for me, that's totally okay. I would rather things were done rather than perfect. So for the monthly headers, I'm going to use the dot grids in the notebook to make sure that my blocks are all the same length, just using the side of the brush pen to get this slightly thicker line. And I'm using the brush pen first because the black pen that I'm going to be using on top isn't waterproof. So if I was to do the black first and then use the mild liner on top of it, it would blur and bleed into the orange. And this way I just get a much cleaner finish and there's no bleeding between the colours. Okay, so I'm done with that. I'm going to move on next to my future log spread. And this is going to be a slightly more detailed overview of each month. So I'll have slightly more space here to write more monthly events. And I'm going to lay out 4 months per page. So the first page will be January, February, March, April, etc. So this spread is going to fall over 3 pages. You'll notice that I hardly ever use a ruler as well. I don't really mind lines being a little bit wobbly. I do use Amanda Rach Lee's hack for getting straight lines in your journal though, and that's just to rotate your notebook so that you're always drawing vertical top to bottom. I definitely find it works. You'll see as well sometimes I use my pinky to steady my hand along the edge, the outside edge of a page. And I find that you get a really nice straight line for lines that are near the edge of your book using that way as well. So I actually had some filming issues with the last page of the future log. So here they are completed, and I did also mess up with the layout of the future log. So I added a 2023 overview page as well. So next up, I'm trying out a new spread. This is going to be a Kanban board, and it's a project management tool that I'm going to try and use to help me manage my YouTube video production. As I said, it's been a long time since I've created videos for YouTube, and there's a lot of different parts that are involved, and hopefully this is going to help me keep track of them all. So this method was developed by a Japanese industrial engineer called Taiichi Ono, and he developed this while he was working for Toyota to help them manage all of the different stages of production that they were carrying out on different projects. So I am going to use that exact same method to help me keep track of all of the different stages of YouTube video production. I'm using my mild liners again, and I've selected a really pastel-y palette of purple, pinky red, a blue and a mint because I've got some really cute pastel coloured post-it notes that I'm going to use within this board as well. So each one of these boxes is going to represent a stage of the project that has to be repeated for every video that I make. So I'm going to take my black Pentel Feud pen and I'm going to label each of the boxes. So for example, plan, film, edit, voiceover, which I'm doing right now, etc, etc. Then, using a post-it that can be moved around the whole board for each individual project, I can see where I am visually with each one. So I'm in the filming stages of the January setup at the moment, then this one could move throughout the rest of the board until it's finished. And I've added another post-it for my February video, which I'm still to plan. So hopefully this is going to be a really useful way for me to keep track of everything, because right now I feel like there is a lot to keep track of. So moving on to my January setup, I have sketched out a little curve so that I can follow the bounds of that for my text. Just again using the broad side of the mild liner brush pen, and really getting these thick lines for this quite bold style of text. And then I've just added some little diagonal pencil guides so that I can put in some drop shadows here. I'm really bad at putting drop shadows in the right position, so I find that this is a good way to keep me on track with that. I've decided to use this orange and grey colour palette for the whole of January, just to tie it all together, because there are going to be a couple of different lettering styles, and I feel like keeping the colour the same throughout is just going to make everything nice and cohesive. I've chosen this quote by Arthur Ashe. I really like it as a January quote. The whole thing reads, "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." And I think that's a really nice message for starting anything, but the start of a year, I think it's especially poignant. Using the thinner tip of the grey mild liner, I'm just going to block out these boxes. I've already sketched them out in pencil just to make sure I have them exactly where I want them to be. And these 3 sections are going to be for my month overview calendar, work goals, and some things that I'm tracking also. So again, repeating that style of header with the zebra mild liner background and Pentel Feud text on top. Just going to add the month header and my goals and tracking section headers also. Then with the fine end of the orange mild liner, I'm going to add the dates down the left hand side, along with a letter to represent the days of the week just next to that. It's just nice to be able to see what day of the week each date is at a glance. And then these nice grey double lines are our weekends. I am notoriously bad at keeping up with trackers, but I'm going to give it a go again because these are things I need to be trying to do all the time. Alright, so on to my weekly setup, and I'm only going to do the first 2 weeks. I'll catch up with the other 2 later on in the month. And again, just sticking to my colour palette of orange and grey and using a slightly different style of text for my week view, week 1 and week 2. And I actually made a little mistake here. I went too far with that horizontal line, so I'm just going to use my white jelly roll just to cover that up. They're actually great for fixing mistakes like this. Now, my first week has some extra days in it. It's more than 7, but I'm not too bothered about that because I was on holiday for the first week of January, and I don't know, I feel like time sort of stands still during this time anyway. So I'm just using the grey mild liner as a background for my daily headers. Then going back in with the Pentel Feud just to add the titles and the dates along that top line. And then each of these boxes will be the place that I add my daily tasks, and I can check them off as I get things done. So week 2 will have a more standard layout for me, which is 6 boxes across the page. So I usually split my Saturday, Sunday over 1 box, because I don't usually have as much to do in those days. So keeping the headers the same throughout the whole of the month, just to make sure that this layout does look cohesive. And I really love a simple header like this, just 2 pens and it's done. Okay, so let's go back to the start and do a little flip through of my whole journal so far. So first page, going back to that orchid hand lettered name, a little bit of ombre blending on the top. My 2022 cover page along with a year overview where I'll put all of the big things that are happening, the more detailed future log pages, and I've got 3 of these again with the same style of header using that ombre on the lettering, and then a 2023 overview also. My Kanban board, which is hopefully going to help me stay organised with YouTube videos. My monthly overview and cover page for January. And then my week 1 and 2 for January also. And that's me finished for now. A super simple way to start a bullet journal using only a couple of pens and a few different lettering styles and a bunch of straight lines. If you decide to try out any of these layouts, I would love to see how you get on. Be sure to tag us on Instagram using @NikkiSupplyStore. As always, everything that I use in my videos is available to order at nikkisupplystore.com. I'll pop all of the links to the things that I've used in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.